Hello and welcome back. Today's practice is a Chinese medicine inspired yin practice. All of the postures and shapes that we will be getting into for this practice will be supporting the two organs associated with the water element, which are which is the bladder and the kidneys. So the only props that I really would recommend is one or two blankets or maybe a couple of large bath towels will do. And then if you do have some wall space, we'll be ending the practice with legs up the wall. So if you don't have wall space, no worries. Maybe you just use your couple of towels or blankets to have a little bit of support underneath the knees towards the end of class. So we're going to get started sitting back on our heels. And I have one of my blankets here just rolled up. And you can figure out how you want your roll, but let me show you where we're going with this. So to start, we're going to be in a hero's position, sitting back on our heels, but having this roll underneath of our hamstrings, sitting right on top of our calves. And then we're going to start by wedging that roll clear towards the knee pit area. So clear up towards the crease of the knees. So you might need to lean forward and really wedge that roll in there. And this is where you might need to play with that thickness. So you should, when you lean back into the heels, feel a little bit of compression. Now, it might feel a little bit juicy. This is a lot of sensation potentially. So feel free to maybe just slide that roll a little bit down the legs. But we want to find something that we are feeling a little bit of sensation, a little bit of that compression, but something that we can stay with for maybe just a couple of minutes. So feel free to start to settle in. And then once you have found your position there, feel free to maybe just close down your eyes or soften your gaze. Hands can rest in your lap if you would like. Tall spine, and see if you can allow the shoulders just to rest down away from your ears, resting those shoulder blades back and down. And then let's come right back. Let's just go right to our breath. Start to seal the lips. So we're taking an inhale through the nose and an exhale through the nose. Now for this practice, what I would recommend is practicing with a B breath or a Brahmari breath. Now all this is just a humming noise at the exhale. So we're keeping the lips sealed for our inhales and exhales, but on the exhale, you're just going to create a little bit of a soft humming noise. And so to begin, whenever you're ready, let's take that inhale through the nose. Exhale, humming. Just nice and soft, but really follow through with the length of your exhales. So nice deep inhale through the nose. So keep going at your own pace and see if you can continue using your exhales to soften through the shoulders, maybe through the legs a little bit. Keep the sides of the neck and jaw soft. Really just starting to tune into the sensations, the ebb and flow of energy that's circulating throughout your body here. Take a couple of more deep breaths there. Really noticing the vibration in the chest. And whenever you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes and just lifting up to where we can remove that roll. Come onto hands and knees. And then let's go ahead and just give the tops of the feet a little tap. So just a little tap, maybe a little sway side to side in the hips. And just some easy circling through the pelvis. Just nice and slow. And then whenever you're ready, let's make our way to an elevated seated position using the 1 or 2 blankets that you have or that towel. I'm just going to use one blanket, but I just want to start to sit right on the edge of that support there. And now we're coming to a straddle position. So both legs are going to be extended out to the sides. So make your straddle as wide as you would like, just stopping enough to where you feel that sensation through the inside of your inner thighs there. Now just letting your feet just dangle, no need to flex. This is a yin practice, so we want to just keep the body soft in areas that we don't want to have that more yang experience. We want to really draw inwards and just feel the sensation here. So to begin, go ahead and extend the spine towards the sky. Take an inhale through the nose. And an exhale as you walk the hands away from your body and just slowly starting to fold over, rounding your spine. Let your chin come towards your chest. And just think about letting each and every vertebrae round and release all the way up into the neck. Release the jaw muscles, all the muscles around the face. And again, just folding over maybe to about 60 to 70% of your full range of motion. So we want to be able to breathe comfortably into our back ribs. Maybe you start to bring your awareness to the inside of your thighs, the back of the legs. So the bladder and kidney meridians are being passively stretched here. Those meridians running through the back of the legs, and just allowing yourself to draw your attention to those areas. Or maybe you're just drawing your attention to the circumference around your ribs and the space between your mid and upper back. Maybe using your exhales to just slowly release a little bit more. And then whenever you're ready, go ahead and start to walk your hands back towards your body, slowly just coming to an upright position. Go ahead and just bend one knee, bend the other knee, plant your hands behind you. And then we're going to keep our feet pretty wide here. We're just going to give the hips a little rinse side to side. So just lower your knees to one side, bring them up at the same time, lower them to the other side at the same time. Nice and slow. A few more times each side. Good. And then whenever you're ready, let's just go ahead and come off of your support there. Now, if you're on a hardwood floor, you might want to have a little bit of a support underneath the sit bones and the low back here. So I am going to have, I'm not on hard floor, I do have carpet, but I just prefer to have a little bit of support underneath my hips. And so maybe that even means extending your blanket out a little bit longer. So we don't want to have much of a lift, but feel free to add just a little bit more softness there. Let's come on to our back here. Let's keep the feet planted and knees bent. And then we're going to just take a moment to hug the right knee into the chest, extend the right leg towards the sky. Now we're going to interlace the fingers behind that right knee, but just interlacing the fingers and having some pressure with the fingers, the center point right behind the knee. So just a center point in the knee crease. That's an acupressure point there called Bladder 40. And so supporting the bladder and the kidneys here during this water element, water season, just applying that pressure there. And then maybe just seeing if you can find a little bit of tenderness. Maybe you just make a little bit of circles or holding the pressure. It's up to you. I like just putting pressure there and then just bending that right knee, adding a little bit more pressure. So feel free to explore, see what's useful and helpful. Maybe even extending this left leg long. That can have a little bit more sensation through that left hip flexor, but feel free to keep that left leg long. Really bringing your awareness to that bladder 40 point behind the right kneecap, center crease of the knee. And then from here, let's just come right back to the breath. See if you can keep the shoulder blades rested down. Taking a deep breath in through the nose and really think about filling the abdomen like a balloon. Take a long, slow exhale through the nose and see if you can release the entire back of the body into the mat a little bit more. Just working with that breath, what they call deep belly breathing. Inhaling, breathing deep into the belly, expanding the belly. Long, slow exhale. Let everything soften and release. Few more breaths here. And then go ahead and start to bend that left knee, and then we're going to hug both knees in towards the chest, maybe a little sway side to side. And then extending both legs towards the sky. Go ahead and cross the right leg over the left, and then bend the knees. See if you can reach for the knees, the shins, or the ankles. We're going to find the supine sort of Gomukhasana legs. So maybe you're feeling a little bit more into the hips. But seeing if you can release a little bit more into your mat using your exhale. So not falling away from our breath, coming right back to your breath. We won't be here too long, but do allow yourself just to melt into any support that's beneath you. Couple more breaths here. And then whenever you're ready, start to uncross your legs and straighten your legs towards the sky. Let's give a little pat all the way down the legs, starting with the hamstrings, working down towards the back of the legs. Maybe doing that just a few more times. Give the back of the legs a nice little tap. And then whenever you're ready, let's bend those knees, plant the feet, and then go ahead and just straighten that left leg towards the sky, interlace the fingers behind the left knee, and then find that center point between, or find the center point of the knee crease. Sorry about that. Hold pressure there, maybe just a little bit of circling in that bladder 40. I'm going to go ahead and bend my left knee to apply a little bit more compression and pressure there. Now, I'm going to also extend my right leg long, but feel free to explore on this side. So maybe on this side, it doesn't feel as good to have that leg extended, or maybe it does. Just feel free to explore with an open mind and open heart, no judgments. Maybe one day it looks different than the other day. That's okay. We're all built differently, and our anatomy and our bone structure is all different. So what might look like this pose might look like it for me, but in your body it might look a little bit different. And just being okay with that. Being okay with just any sensations that we're feeling. Take a few more deep breaths there. Maybe soften the shoulder blades again. Maybe do a quick body scan to see if you can soften certain areas, the low back, around the hips. Maybe just even if you have that right leg lengthened out, maybe just let it be as heavy as you can be. And coming back to some deep belly breathing. Especially if you found that useful, especially if you found it useful to have that deep belly breathing to slow down your mind, shift into that parasympathetic mode, nervous system where it's the state that we can rest and digest and just drawing our attention inwards, and instead of being on the go all the time and going here and doing this and do that, we're letting things process and digest. And maybe even think about, refilling your cup. So if you found that maybe you're low on energy and your cup is getting less and less full, let this practice be a rejuvenation practice to find that quiet and calm and stillness again. And whenever you're ready, go ahead and start to bend that right knee, hug both knees in towards the chest, maybe a little sway side to side. And then whenever you're ready, let's extend both legs towards the sky. Cross the left leg over the right, and then again reaching for the knees, any part of the leg, maybe down towards the ankles. Think about this Gomukhasana position of the legs and the supine position. Now you can imagine it might be a little bit harder to relax the shoulder blades, but see if you can relax the front part of the chest. So opening through the collarbones, letting the neck just be long and soft. Come back to just softening the facial muscles. And letting this be a very passive but relaxing stretch. And then nice and slow, just bringing your awareness back to your legs. Start to straighten out your legs back towards the sky. Maybe you even just roll the ankles around here for this one, or feel free to pat down the legs again. You can do that. Maybe just pointing or flexing the toes. And then let's hug the knees into the chest one more time. Maybe even pick up the head and squeeze yourself up into a little ball perhaps. And then just releasing the body completely back down towards your mat. Extend the arms out to the sides here, but keep the knees lifted. Take an inhale through the nose, and then an exhale, releasing the knees to the left side. Now here's where if you have that extra blanket or bath towel, you might want it for underneath the knees or in between the knees. But we're working towards knees being stacked on top of each other. But maybe if one leg is straightened out a little bit today, that's totally fine. Just find any variation that you can settle into for this 2-knee supine twist. And again, just relaxing the shoulder blades, enjoying that little bit of rotation in the spine, maybe that little bit of a release in the low back. Feeling that openness through the chest and the throat. Using your exhales to melt into your mat. Soften those areas that Maybe a little bit of a hard edge, maybe the kneecaps, around the tops of the thighs. And then on your next inhale, go ahead and lift the right knee, bring the left knee with you, rolling onto your back. And then just releasing an exhale here with the knees lifted, but just relaxing the legs. Take another inhale through the nose. And an exhale to let the knees come to the right side. Nice and easy and slow. Enjoying this little bit of a twist through the spine. Any arm variation that works best for you right here. So once you get your knees and your legs settled, maybe finding an arm variation up overhead for this side, maybe stretching through the sides of the waist a little bit more. Feel free to explore there. Maybe you even have a little bit of a reach, reaching through the arms and grabbing a hold of one wrist. Whatever you can do to still relax though. So we want a position that we can soften into, not going to our end of our range of motion, but just allowing ourselves to passively and slowly release into this shape. And really just having that invitation from our body. We'll stay here for a few more breaths. And then feel free to lower your arms down by your sides. We're going to start to lift this left knee, bring the right knee with you, coming right onto your back. Again, maybe a little sway side to side. Maybe a little circling of the knees, but just keeping this nice and easy. Slow and still keeping your attention turned inwards. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to just bring our feet down towards the mat, roll onto one side, make your way up into a seated position, and then just enough time to where we can get our blankets or towel set up to have legs at the wall. So I'm just going to use one blanket here, but again, feel free to have any elevation under the hips that you would like, as much elevation there. And I'm just going to have my blanket up against the wall. Now, I find it easier to get with legs up the wall in this position. So I'm just going to start with my left hip up against the wall, using your hands and your arms as like a nice little kickstand, just to kind of help you guide your legs up the wall. So left hip clear up against the wall. I'm just going to pivot my legs right up the wall and just kind of shuffle around until I can get my sit bones right up against the wall there. So we want our hips close to the wall. And then just lying on back here. So if you do have that extra towel or blanket, maybe resting it behind your head. And then I like to part my legs pretty wide here. So wider than my hips distance apart. Hands are going to be rested on my belly, but feel free to stretch them out into a T. I like to have hands on belly so we can come back to some deep belly breathing. But I'll let you take your time to get settled in. Maybe just immediately noticing that extra stagnant energy, maybe just draining from the legs. Feel that nice release. And don't be afraid to make any type of um, adjustments as you need. So I'm personally going to have my blanket a little bit higher. So any adjustments that can be distracting, maybe even a bunched up piece of clothing, you want to be fully relaxed here. Once you have found your position or shape that you would like to stay in for a couple of minutes, let's bring hands to belly. And then just starting to take a deep inhale through the nose. And an exhale through the nose. And first just feel into that movement, having the abdomen pushing into the hands on your inhale. And then how the diaphragm works is as we inhale, the diaphragm pulls down into the pelvic bowl. And then as we exhale, it releases back upwards to its resting position. And so as we take these deep inhales, you can kind of think of like we're pumping this good energy and blood throughout our system, moving the chi throughout our body. So any of that stagnant chi, really pumping that through, releasing it out through the body. And let your mind settle. Let the back of your body relax. Think about having that willpower. Find that stillness and maybe even be uncomfortable in the stillness, the silence. And that's okay for it to feel uncomfortable when it's the silence and we're just sitting with our own thoughts, our own feelings, what's going on in the body. That can be uncomfortable. But if we can just sit with that, notice, draw our attention inwards and not run away from it, we can see what paths that opens up for us. And so with the water element in Chinese medicine, the emotion that's associated with that is fear. So we might have the fear of slowing down during this season. We might not be able to do as much. That might create that fear within us. And maybe if you want to start, getting into a new hobby, we might have that fear of starting something new or having that willpower. And so just noticing when those certain emotions arise in the body, take note of it. Know that what you're feeling is normal and you're not alone. Come back to your breath. How are you breathing? Let's take a couple of deep breaths here. Really focusing on some nice inhales, inflating the abdomen, and long, slow, steady exhales. And then if you had your eyes closed, go ahead and float your eyes back open. Slowly bend your knees, plant your feet against your wall. And then nice and easy, we're just going to roll onto our side, use your hand to bring you into an upright position. And then just nice and slow, you might feel a little bit dizzy, just noticing leftover effects of the practice. Let's make our way back to an easy seated position. So this is the time of the practice that I like to just close down my eyes and continue just feeling that ebb and flow of energy running throughout the body. And just letting any excess stagnant energy just cascade off of your body. Notice, how does your breath feel, the quality of your breath, the state of your mind. And so to close out this practice, feel free to bring hands to heart center. Thank you for practicing with me, and I hope this one has found it very useful for you in your practice. And until next time, namaste.